Hi, I'm Perrin Collery. I'm the artist working on the Frederick County Main Street Sculpture Project. You are here today to learn how to make a tile to be included in that project. So let's get started. You will have already picked up your packet. You will also need a scrap piece of paper to work on, a cup of water, a paper towel, a paintbrush, and a pair of scissors. Attached to the packet, you will find that there are a set of directions. And when you open that up, you will see that the directions include 4 template designs of flowers. These are the tiles that we're going to make. These are your patterns for the tiles. You want to choose the one that you like the best. Now, if it turns out that you would rather design your own flower, that's okay. Just make sure that it's about this size, which is about 5 inches across, so that it will fit on your piece of clay. Once you pick out which template design you like the best, you're going to use your scissors to cut that shape out. I've already cut mine out. So there's my template. Now we're going to open the packet. Inside the packet, you'll see that there are 4 different color cups. We're going to set those aside for right now. There's a wooden tool and your piece of clay. So you want to just kind of carefully work that piece of clay out of the plastic bag. It might stick a little bit, but that's okay. Put it down on your scrap piece of paper. If the clay has any little marks on it, maybe from the bottoms of the cups, you can just take your finger and use your finger like an eraser and gently smooth it out. You don't want to push too hard here. You're just kind of smoothing out any marks that might have showed up. You're going to take your template and fit it onto your piece of clay. Now we're going to use our wooden tool to trace our flower design. At this point, we're using the wooden tool just like we would use a pencil. So you don't have to push very hard, and you're just going to trace the outline of your design, working your way around the paper. Then, when you peel the paper up, you'll see that your design is now on the clay. At this point, we can use this same wooden tool to act like a knife. So now we're going to use this tool to cut that flower shape out. And when we do that, we want to make sure that we push the tool all the way through the clay until we feel it hit the table. And then drag that tool along the shape that you've traced. And you will be cutting away the clay that isn't part of the flower. Going to carefully pull away the scrap clay and set that aside. We're going to use it, so let's keep that, but we'll set it aside for now. Now, as we've done that cut, you'll see that the edge of your design has these little crumbs on it. And just like you smoothed before, you can take your finger and gently smooth around the edges of your piece and kind of clean up those crumbs. You don't want to push too hard. You don't need to use a lot of pressure here. You can see that it smooths out really nicely. All right, so now we have a flower template, but it's pretty boring at this point. So we're gonna add some details, and that's where this extra clay comes in. So we can take pieces of this extra clay, maybe flatten it out a little bit with our finger, and use the tool and just cut other shapes out of there that we can then attach to our flower design. But there's one rule, and that is whenever we want to attach 2 pieces of clay together, we have to use a little bit of water to act like glue. So if I want to attach this piece of clay in the center of the flower, I have to turn it over, dip my finger in the water, and use a little bit of water to act like glue. And there we go. And now it's stuck on. So I can continue to do that. I can cut shapes out of my scrap clay. Maybe I'll cut a little circle out. And if I want to add that, again, water to act like glue, stick it down. Now, when you're adding pieces, you don't want to add something big and tall like this. If I were going to add something like this, when this piece is eventually installed on the sculpture, that is going to be up too high and it's going to be too easy to knock off. So we're going to want to keep the pieces that we attach lower and flatter to the tile. You can also take some of your clay and roll coils. And again, if I want to attach this coil, I need to add a little bit of water to it, and then I can attach that coil to the tile. And I'll do one more of those just so we can see how that goes. Rolling a little coil, using the water to act like glue, and sticking it down where I want it. You can roll little balls, but again, have to use a little bit of water to act like glue to stick them down. And then lastly, you can use your tool to carve designs in. So if you want to draw into your clay, you can do that as well. You can also use the back side of your tool, maybe, to make a pattern. So you're going to keep working on this until you feel like the flower looks how you want it to look. You might end up with some scrap clay. This, once you're completely finished, you're going to recycle. You can do that by just taking it outside and putting it in your garden or putting it into the grass. And when it rains, it will turn back into dirt and it will just kind of disappear back into the earth. Okay, so the next step is that we're going to paint our tiles. If you decide that you want to take a break and paint the tile later, you need to put it back into the plastic bag for safekeeping. We want to try to keep the tile moist. We don't really want it to dry out. So if we're going to work on the paint later, we're going to put the tile away and keep it in the plastic bag. Now your kit came with 4 different colors, and these are called underglazes. They are meant to go on clay, and they sort of act like paint, but they get fired in the kiln and become a permanent color. And this is a great material to use when we are working with clay. You have your water, you have your brush, you have your paper towel, and you can just start thinking about where you might like to put colors and then adding those colors. So you'll dip your brush into a color and paint that color on. The first time you paint it on, it's a little bit washy. You can see that the clay still shows up underneath of it. So you're going to end up doing 3 coats of each color. That helps it give a nice rich color to the design. So there's 1 coat. I might wait a minute or 2, and then I can do my 2nd coat. And then wait a minute or 2, and then do my 3rd coat. Maybe you want to go to a different color in between your coats. When you're ready to switch colors, just rinse your brush, dry it out on your paper towel, and go to your next color. This is the part where you get to be creative and really think about how you want your design to look. And again, 1 coat, and then we'll do 2 coats, and then we'll go back and do a 3rd coat. I'm going to go back to that first green color and do my 3rd coat. If it feels like your brush is pulling it off while you're doing it, you can just wait a few more minutes. It dries pretty quickly. All right, let's put a little more of these other colors on. Now, you don't have to use all the colors you were given, but you should use at least 1. And you don't have to color every little bit of your tile. If you leave some of the clay showing, it will end up being a beautiful terracotta red color. So you do not have to worry about covering the whole design with paint. But if you want to, you can. We're not worried about putting color on the sides of the tile because only the top part is going to show. So we'll just do our coloring on the top side. All right. So I have 3 more coats to do here, and then I'll be finished putting the color on. Once you're finished, you are going to want to let this tile sit out for about a half hour to 40 minutes, and just let everything stiffen up a little bit. Then you'll put it back in the plastic bag, zip that bag back up, and carry the bag back to your drop-off site. When you're carrying your tile back to the site, you're going to want to try to keep it flat like this. Don't turn it on its side like that. Just keep it nice and flat, and then it'll be nice and safe when you get it back to the site. And that's it. Congratulations. You've now made a tile that will get included in our public art project.